Thank you for joining us for today's webinar on the role of nutrition for cancer patients. When diagnosed with cancer, nutrition becomes even more important. Good nutrition can help you feel better, reduce the risk of infection, keep your strength up, and help you heal faster. During this informational webinar, you will learn the building blocks of a healthy diet as well as the nutritional needs throughout treatment. I am Mary Margaret Kilmeyer, and I am the Patient Resource Coordinator for Debbie's Dream Foundation Curing Stomach Cancer. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and currently completing my doctorate. My clinical and research background is focused on working collaboratively with doctors, patients, their families, and the members of a healthcare team. We would like to thank Genentech for providing funding to make this webinar possible. We would also like to thank our promotional partner, Patient Resource. You will be able to ask questions during tonight's presentation. You can type your question into the white text box that appears on your screen. At the conclusion of the presentation, we will address questions as time allows. If we don't have time to address your question, we will try to address it in a future webinar taking place on February 4th at 12 noon Eastern Time. In addition, the recording of this webinar will be accessible on our website in approximately 1 week. Today, I will introduce Debbie Zellman, who will share with you her journey and information about Debbie's Dream Foundation. Then Stacy Roberts will present the role of nutrition for cancer patients. And then there will be time for a question and answer session at the end. I would now like to introduce the president and founder of Debbie's Dream Foundation, Debbie Zellman.
Thank you so much, Mary Margaret. If you could advance to this slide, that'd be great. Thank you. So just to fill everyone in about me and my journey, I was diagnosed with stage 4 stomach cancer in April of 2008. At the time, I was only 40 years old. I was the mother of 3 young children. I was married to a physician, and I was a practicing attorney with my own firm. I had no risk factors for stomach cancer, and my symptoms were very vague. When I was diagnosed, I was told that my chances of being alive in 5 years was only 4%. A year after I was diagnosed, upon realizing through that year in my journey that there were no resources available for stomach cancer patients and very little research going on, I founded Debbie's Dream Foundation Curing Stomach Cancer. I currently am still a cancer patient. A lot of people don't realize that. I receive IV Herceptin every 3 weeks, and I take an oral medication called Tykerb every night. I have gotten very involved, obviously, in the stomach cancer area. I'm a patient advocate on the National Cancer Institute Esophagogastric Task Force. I'm also a patient advocate on the NCCN Gastric and Esophageal Guidelines Committee. I'm a member of the Deadliest Cancers Coalition, PEAK and SPEAK, as well as OVAC, which is One Voice Against Cancer. And a lot of people love to hear, most notably, that I've appeared on Dr. Oz in an episode about stomach cancer. Next slide, please. So stomach cancer is one of the leading causes of cancer death worldwide. It is the 2nd leading cancer killer in men and 4th in women. Nearly 930,000 people worldwide are diagnosed with stomach cancer, and approximately 700,000 will die. More than 22,000 Americans are diagnosed with stomach cancer each year, and more than 11,000 will die. Stomach cancer is on the rise in young people ages 25 to 39 in the United States, which is a scary statistic. Per cancer death, stomach cancer receives the least amount of federal research funds of any cancer in the U.S. And as we know, as I've said earlier, there are few resources and support services for stomach cancer patients. And most people know very little about the disease. Next slide. So Debbie's Dream Foundation's mission is to change all that. We are a nonprofit dedicated to raising awareness about stomach cancer, advancing funding for research, providing education and support internationally to patients, families, and caregivers with our ultimate goal to make the cure for stomach cancer a reality. Please check out our website at debbiesdream.org. Debbie's Dream so far has hit many milestones, even though we're maybe about 5.5 years old. We've had events across the United States. We have 24 chapters, 21 of which are in the United States, 2 are in Canada, and 1 is in Germany, with more developing all across the world every day. We have a free stomach cancer education symposia and webinars like this one all year round, with our main symposium occurring on April 18th of this year. We have a free patient resource education program, we abbreviate it PREP, which prepares hundreds of patients, families, and caregivers throughout the world, matching those inquirers with other stomach cancer survivors and caregivers using specific disease criteria. That really is a mentor program with peer-to-peer support. We've also funded 3 grants now for stomach cancer research. They've totaled $150,000. 2 are pending right now with applications being requested through the AACR website. We've also held 2 stomach cancer Capitol Hill Advocacy Days and a Capitol Hill briefing. Our next Advocacy Day is coming soon, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Our website, as I've mentioned, debbiesdream.org, is vital for any patient, family member, or caregiver. We have in-depth stomach cancer information, a lecture library with all lectures that we've ever had at our symposia and webinars housed on the website. We have clinical trial information and a free clinical trial matching service. We have a blog, very active blog, as well as a stomach cancer support community, which is the only one of its kind. We also have resources which are completely translatable. Everything on our website is translatable into 60 different languages simply by clicking at the bottom of our website, selecting the language, and Google translates the entire website into that language. Next slide, please. So this is a screen capture of the homepage of our website. It's a very user-friendly website, but of course, if anyone ever has any questions about how to navigate our website, please contact us. And you can see the Contact Us button at the top on the right. Next slide. This is a brief listing of some of the upcoming events that we have that you should all take note about. If you are an athlete or know of one who likes to compete in a marathon or half marathon, we have a very large team running in Miami on January 25th. It's a wonderful race, and there's a lot of camaraderie. It's fantastic. If you enjoy comedy, we have a Night of Laughter also in South Florida on February 8th. We also have our next Capitol Hill Advocacy Day on March 4th through the 6th in Washington, D.C. That's vitally important for people to attend. We need representatives from every state there. So if you want information on attending, please do visit our website under the Events or Advocacy tab. As I mentioned before, our Stomach Cancer Symposium and Dreammakers Gala. Actually, there's a typo on that slide. It should be April 18th. So please do note that date is wrong. And every year we do have an International Stomach Cancer Genes Day. This coming November, it'll be on the 11th, and anyone can participate in that. Next slide.
Here we have our contact information. Debbie's Dream Foundation is headquartered in Davie, Florida. Our office is open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. And on this slide, you will also see some important phone numbers and email addresses to contact our office. We will start the presentation on nutrition for the cancer patient. Our presenter is Stacy Roberts. Stacy is a registered dietitian serving several locations in the South Florida area. She graduated with a Bachelor's of Science with a culinary certificate. She has been interviewed for various publications and was a regular contributor to television morning show, The Morning Show on My 33. Stacy has been recognized by the Broward County Dietetics Association and the FDA. At this time, I will turn the webinar over to Stacy.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Hopefully it's noon and everyone is eating a little snack or having lunch while we're listening to me talk. So we will get started. So let's go to the next slide. So what we're going to discuss today is why nutrition is important. It's important for all of us. We're going to discuss about malnutrition, some side effects that we could have during treatment, and the guidelines from the American Institute for Cancer Research. Next slide. So nutrition is important for anybody. Cancer, not cancer, it helps us feel better. It fights fatigue. I know a lot of patients complain about fatigue, so we're going to discuss that. It helps with maintaining a healthy body weight. When we eat well, we get enough vitamins and minerals. It helps us with strength, risk of infection, which some patients get while they're going through treatment. It really helps us manage side effects, and it improves our quality of life. Next slide. So one of my big things with patients is that weight loss happens to a lot of patients while they get treatment. And some patients, I call them and I see that they lost some weight and they tell me it's not that big of a deal. It's only 5 pounds. It's only 2 pounds. But it really is a significant change because just a little as 5% of your body weight could change your response to treatment. So let's just say you're 100 pounds. That's 5 pounds. A lot of women patients that I find, or men too, they're happy with the weight loss because now they look better and they feel better. But it really does have an effect on the treatment. So it's also associated with poor quality of life and a reduced risk of survival. Next slide. So while you're going through treatment, a lot of things happen. A lot of patients have side effects from the treatment and also just in life. You're diagnosed with cancer, and it's a whole it changes your life around. So some of us get depressed or upset about it, and it changes what we eat. And malnutrition is a vicious cycle. So if we have diarrhea, we're eating less. We have fatigue, we eat less. We lose strength, so we eat less. And it's all a side effect and causes malnutrition, which we don't really want to happen. So I'm going to go through all the different side effects and so how we could deal with it nutritionally. A lot of doctors recommend medications for it, which I do agree with, but we also need to eat well during the treatment. Next slide. So here are some possible side effects. I know I like to give my patients a book of nutrition and cancer, and it has a whole list of side effects. So I'd like to tell everyone not everything is going to happen to you. So some people go through treatment and they go through it real well. Not one side effect, they maintain their weight, and other patients get some side effects. So we're going to go through each side effect and discuss ways that we could handle them. Next slide. So nausea. Nausea is a big thing that I get from patients. When you're nauseous, I mean, I know when I don't feel well, I'm nauseous. To eat food is the last thing I'm thinking about. So I really enforce eating small, frequent meals throughout the day. 6 small, frequent meals. I love to tell patients to set your alarm to go off to remind you to eat something, especially if you're not feeling well. You could go long periods of time without eating. So if you set your alarm to go off every hour to eat something, I honestly don't care what it is. A bite of a granola bar or a bite of a sandwich, it's better than nothing. Also, not putting a whole bunch of food in front of you. You know, I know family members want you to eat, so they put all this food in front of you and say, eat, eat, eat. Doing a small amount of food is more beneficial because the patient feels like it's less overwhelming. They don't have to eat so much. So small, frequent meals throughout the day. Also, snacking. Even if you grab a handful of nuts or a granola bar, I always tell people to mindlessly eat. Just because you don't pay attention to what you're eating and you tend to eat more. Also, sip on fluid. You could do water or any of your sports drinks, coconut water. Those are all great fluids. Even, some patients say they don't like water. It's okay. Drink soup or have ice cream or make a smoothie. Those all count as fluids too. Also, strong odors. If you're nauseous, to smell something could really turn you off and make the nausea worse. So choose bland foods like sandwiches, soups, oatmeal are all great things to eat. Also, hard candy such as peppermints or lemon drops could help get rid of the nausea. Even ginger. Ginger is great with nausea, so you can make ginger tea. I tell patients you could buy fresh ginger from the supermarket, throw it in some boiling water, you have a tea, and if you have leftover ginger, freeze it so it doesn't go bad, and you can make ginger tea anytime you want. Even at the stores now, they sell ginger candies like lollipops or these candy type things. So loss of appetite. My same thing with loss of appetite as the nausea is small, frequent meals throughout the day. This is one thing that I keep repeating. But also, you want to eat more foods that are higher in calories and protein. So now it's not the time to diet or worry about low-fat, low-calorie foods. You want to eat the real deal foods. And add foods that are high calories. So if you're making mashed potatoes, let's just say, now's the time to add the butter, the cheese, the sour cream to it, just so it gives it more oomph. If you're making smoothies, I know a lot of patients, when they don't want to eat or are fatigued, they'd rather drink stuff. So make smoothies at home. You can make it with yogurt, ice cream, milk, and add nut butters to it. If it's peanut butter or almond butter, those are all great things. And if you're not drinking milk, there are great dairy alternatives like coconut milk, rice milk that you could use for your base of a smoothie. Puddings are great, chocolate pudding, vanilla pudding, even those things you could add to your smoothie. Try nutritional supplements. They're out there. If you like them, drink them. And also with the nutritional supplements, you could add the nut butters to it or yogurt to it. So you could do that also. And since you don't feel well, and sometimes taste changes while you're going through treatment, try different foods. Think of foods that you didn't like before. Hey, you might like them now, so you might as well try them. Also, make your eating more enjoyable. Now's the time to sit with family and friends, with your family, eat dinner, maybe have some candlelights going, have some nice music going. That also could make the eating experience more pleasurable instead of having a family member yell at you, eat, eat, eat. So that's not really what we want. Also, when you're making foods, you want to add more calories to it. So eggs are great protein. So when you're making scrambled eggs, you could add butter to it, cheese to it, just to give it more calories. Next slide. So with our taste changes, this is really not fun. I have a lot of patients who tell me that everything tastes disgusting. They can't eat anything. So with the taste changes, number one, I always suggest using plasticware versus silverware. So because when you put the silverware in your mouth, sometimes you could get a metallic taste. So try to use plasticware or use your hands. I love eating with my hands because It's just more fun. So you could eat with your hands or use the plasticware. And use a glass pot for cooking instead of using like a cast iron skillet, something like that, because that could also change the taste of food. Use sugar-free candies or gums or mints. Sometimes that could help with the taste change. If you don't have any swords in your mouth, you could try lemon drops or anything that has citrus in it, the tart flavors. Sometimes that could help. But if you have sores in your mouth, please don't do it. And also seasoning up your food. Try spices, rosemary, thyme, basil, barbecue sauce. These foods they have taste to it, and sometimes that could help with the taste changes. Even marinating your food. So if you're going to cook a chicken or fish, marinate it before you cook it, because at least it'll absorb some of that flavor. Practice good hygiene, brushing your teeth, making sure your mouth is clean all the time, which could help with the taste change. And eat fresh fruits and vegetables. Even the frozen are good too. They're frozen at peak, so they do have the nutritional value as fresh. The canned one, just think, it's sitting in a can. Sometimes the food can now have that canny type taste to it. So doing the fresh or the frozen is better. And also trying new meats. Instead of the red meats, do the chicken, the fish, the cheese, because you need the protein while you're going through treatment. And try to avoid alcohol. Next slide. Diarrhea, this definitely is not fun, especially when you have to run to the bathroom quite a few times. So number one, drink, H2O, agua. Keep getting the fluids in you, because when you are having diarrhea, all the fluids are not staying in you. So you want to drink plenty of fluids. I like the coconut water just because it does have some sodium and potassium in it to help replenish what you lost. You could do the sports drink. I always suggest patients, if they do want to do the sports drink, to dilute it with water, just because there is a lot of sugar in it, and sometimes that could increase the diarrhea. So just dilute it with water. You could do half and half, replacing the potassium and the sodium. So the bananas are great. When you're cooking, add a little bit of salt to your food. Some patients, when they do have diarrhea, dairy products could make it worse. So trying to avoid your milk products. Yogurt is really great for diarrhea because it has your probiotics in it. Avoid the greasy fried foods because that can make it worse also. We also suggest sometimes patients to follow a clear liquid diet. It's okay just to have liquids at this time. So your clear liquids are your apple juice. Sometimes that can make the diarrhea worse, so you want to watch out for the apple juice. The cranberry juice is great. Water, the coconut water. Or you could follow what's called a BRAT diet, B-R-A-T-T. So it stands for bananas, rice, applesauce, tea, and toast. So the bananas and the rice are great because it helps bind you up. It's white rice versus the brown rice. Usually I'm always promoting brown rice or whole grains, but at this time you do want to have the white rice because it helps bind you up. Applesauce, which is great and easy to keep in the refrigerator, and toast. White bread, no more whole wheat at this time. You want to follow a low-fiber diet, and you want to limit your sugar-free products because your sugar-free products, too, could cause diarrhea. I have a lot of diabetics who get obsessed with sugar-free cookies and candies, and then they have diarrhea, and it's because of the sugar-free products. Also, to increase your sodium, having pretzels or crackers, broths are great to have because they are high in sodium. Next slide. Constipation, so this one isn't fun either. So you really want to make sure that you eat all the time at regular times. I know a lot of patients don't want to eat and don't have time to eat, but if you make a schedule and try to stick to that schedule of when you're going to eat, really helps. Also, increasing your fiber intake. I have a lot of patients who don't like fruits and vegetables, so trying to increase your fruits and vegetable intake is beneficial. So the skins of fruits and vegetables have a lot of fiber in it. Your whole grains are high in fiber, like your quinoa, your barley, your bulgur. So these are great things to add to help with the constipation. Once again, fluids, fluids, fluids. It's an ongoing statement, but increasing the fluids help with constipation too. It helps everything move through. Also, if now, since everyone knows fiber is good for you, they add it to everything that we eat. So any of your high fiber cereals or granola bars, you want to make sure you're increasing your fluids when you're eating those products. Also, the fluids, so that counts as popsicles and ice cream and puddings and Jell-O, so that all counts as fluids too. Also, prunes and prune juice helps with constipation. I love prunes. I think they're great. You want to eat them and make sure you're drinking enough water. And also moving. I know a lot of patients too, they get tired, they're fatigued, they don't want to get out of bed. But moving helps with the constipation. So I don't care if it's just getting up, going to the kitchen, walking into the living room, whatever it is, just walking, moving, getting your whole body working. Next slide. Fatigue. So like I said, a lot of patients are tired, and I get the phone call all the time. I'm tired. What should I eat? You want to eat a balanced diet. Well, what does that mean? Everyone says, oh, eat a balanced diet. I need to eat a healthy diet, which means that you want to eat enough food to sustain life, which includes your fat, your carbohydrates, your water, your vitamins, your minerals. That all is part of a balanced diet. Also, some patients are anemic, so eating a diet that's high in iron will help with that. So eating your meat, your organ meats, your liver, some patients don't want to eat that. So there are other foods out there that are high in iron, like your broccoli, your spinach, your kale, collard greens, prunes, dried fruits. These are all great sources of iron. So just remember, too, if you're eating an iron-rich food, you want to eat it with something that's high in vitamin C. It helps absorb it better. So you could add orange juice to it, or eat an orange, or have a tomato with your broccoli. It helps absorb it better. Also, you want to conserve your energy. So if you don't like eating and you're tired, it's okay to drink supplements. So make yourself a shake or pudding, because you don't have to do a lot of chewing, which exerts energy. You also want to stay active, because if we lay in bed all the time and not do anything, of course we're going to feel tired. So we want to move and do things. Also, stocking your kitchen. I think this is really important, cancer or no cancer. If we have healthy things in our house, we're more likely going to eat it. So when you are feeling well, cook. Freeze things. So when you're not feeling well, all you have to do is take food out of the freezer and heat it up. Even ask friends and family to help you, because a lot of family and friends do want to help, and they want to feel like they're doing something for you. So ask them to cook you a meal. Ask them to cook you lunch or dinner, and freeze it if there are leftovers, just so it makes it easier for you. Small, frequent meals. There it is again. So just little snacks here and there, which would help. And also drinking your fluids. Next slide. So food safety is important. Just because we go through treatment, sometimes our white blood cell count goes down and we're more apt to get sick. And I really don't want patients to get sick from something that they eat. So food safety is very important at this time. So you want to check the expiration dates of your food. Whatever's in your refrigerator, or when you're going shopping or family going shopping, check the dates. Also, when you're thawing foods out, so if you buy chicken or fish frozen, you want to put it in the refrigerator to defrost it. You don't want to leave it on the countertop for hours at a time for it to defrost. Washing your hands is really important. So washing your hands with soap and water, constantly moving your hands back and forth to keep your hands clean and kill any germs. Also, keeping your foods at the right temperature. So keeping a thermometer in your refrigerator to make sure everything's at the right temperature. You want to avoid raw and uncooked foods. This I'll get into because we really don't tell patients that they can't eat raw fruits and vegetables. I tell them that they can eat it, but they need to wash it very well before they eat it. Some patients don't feel comfortable with it, so they rather have cooked or frozen fruits, which is fine. But if you want to have an apple, it's okay. Wash the outside of it before you eat it. Same thing with a melon. You could buy a whole melon, wash the outside of it, soap, water, rinse it, and then cut it open. I'd rather someone buy the whole fruit, cut it themselves, versus going to a supermarket and buying fresh fruit that's already cut up for you. Because just think about it. You don't know the last time they washed their hands, when they clean their knife, when they clean the slicer. So you want to avoid foods that other people touched. Same thing with restaurants, too. You really don't want to go out to eat because you don't know what goes on behind the door at the restaurant. So it's better for patients to have their family and friends cook for them versus going to a restaurant. You could go online and see all these things about restaurants and how unclean they are. So be careful with going out to eat or buying things that are already prepared. At the supermarket, I know sometimes they have like salads, coleslaw, macaroni salad that they put together there. That I would avoid. But if it's something made by a company that has been pasteurized, that's okay to have. Also, the deli counter could be a scary place. Same concept. You don't know how long the turkey or the ham has been sitting out in the refrigerator, when they clean their hands, when they clean the slicer. So it's better to buy food that has been pre-packaged. Also, store food within 2 hours of cooking, and you want to make sure you get it to the right temperature. Next slide. So here's a list. If you go online, you will see this presentation, and you could print out the guidelines of what the right temperatures are supposed to be. I know I like to cook, and sometimes we press the top of a piece of meat, and we know when it's done. But unfortunately, our fingers don't give us the internal temperature of food. So I think everyone should go out after this webinar and go buy a thermometer. Just so when you are cooking the meat, the chicken, the fish, you know what the internal temperature is. It's okay to eat meat or fish, chicken during treatment. We just want to make sure it's cooked fully through, nothing raw. So no raw fish, no sushi, no raw beef. If you want to have a steak, it needs to be well done, not medium rare or not rare. You want it well done. Next slide. So here are some of the guidelines from the American Institute of Cancer Research. We'll go through this a little fast. So for cancer prevention, I think this is perfect for anybody. I don't care if you have cancer, don't have cancer. This is really healthy eating. Diet, exercise, and our weight are 3 most important things for preventing cancer and preventing reoccurrence. Next slide. So this is a list of the prevention. We're going to go through each one individually. I know our time is a little short, so next slide we'll go through each one of them. So I love this picture. I think this really shows us about BMI. Here are 2 people with the same height and weight, and obviously we could see a body difference between them. One man is very fit, and the other one has a little bit more visual fat on him. So it's really important that we know our BMI, but also just remember, too, if we do have a lot of muscle, our BMI might be higher than usual. Next slide. Because our muscle is more dense than fat. So I have a lot of patients who, after treatment, they're trying to lose weight, and they're so upset by the scale because it's not moving. But we have to remember, muscle is more dense than fat. So to get our BMI, we take our weight in pounds, we times it by 703, and we divide it by our height in inches squared. So we get a number. When we get that number, we can figure out what our BMI is. Our goal is between 18.5 and 24.9. That is considered normal. From 25 to 29.9, we're considered overweight, and over 30 is considered obese. And then we have different levels of obesity, but we'll just leave it at over 30. We really want to get it less than 30. Next slide. So we really want to choose a plant-based diet. I'm not saying that we have to become vegetarians or vegans. We just want to focus more on our plant-based foods. Our fruits, our vegetables, our legumes, our beans are great sources of protein. Dairy and eggs also count as protein too, but beans are great to add to our diet. They're high in protein. They're easy to make. So these are great foods to add to our diet. Next slide. Eat 5 or more servings of fruits and vegetables a day. Not a week, not a month, a day. We want to add more fruits and vegetables to our diet. Some patients, like I said before, don't like fruits and vegetables, so I tell them try to sneak it into their diet. So if you chop it up into small pieces or mix it in with something that you do like, so adding spinach to mashed potatoes, or last night I made zucchini, but I made it look like spaghetti. So there are little tricks of ways to add more fruits and vegetables to our diet. Next slide. But all fruits and vegetables are good for you. There's not one that's better than the other. I have some patients who tell me how they don't want to eat watermelon or carrots or corn because it's high in sugar. I'd rather someone eat those foods than eat cookies, cakes, candies. So what counts as a serving? It's a half a cup of cooked vegetables, a cup of vegetable juice, or a cup of raw leafy vegetables. So if you take a cup of spinach and cook it down, usually it becomes a lot less. So we want a half a cup of the cooked vegetables. Also, you want to be careful with the juices. I know that's a huge thing now. With juices, you don't get the fiber in it that you need. So you're basically drinking carbohydrates and sugar. So we want to eat the whole fruit because we're getting more fiber. And fruits too, a half a cup of fruit, a cup of 100% fruit juice, or a quarter cup of dried fruit. Next slide. So as you see, it'll show you all the different servings of the fruits and vegetables. 12 baby carrots, a large pepper, sweet potato, broccoli. Watermelon is one of my favorites. And whole grains. Whole grains are really important because we need fiber. Fiber is what helps us feel full. Depending on the treatment, sometimes we tell patients they need to follow a low-fiber diet. Sometimes it's a high-fiber diet. But in general, we need about 25 to 30 grams of fiber per day. Most people only get 5 to 10 grams a day. So eating your whole grains, your fruits and the skins of fruits and vegetables, all count as fiber. Also whole grains too. People think whole grain bread and whole grain pasta, but when you're reading the food label of it, you want to make sure the first ingredient is whole grains, not enriched wheat. So trying new grains, trying quinoa, barley, bulgur, there's a whole bunch of them. If you go to the store, there are some stores that have a bulk aisle where you could buy as much or as little of whole grain. So at least you could try new things. Next slide. So you want to choose low-fat or fat-free dairy products. If you want to have dairy products, I know some patients want to avoid it. I prefer low-fat versus fat-free. I find low-fat has no taste, especially in cheese. I find low-fat melts better. But if you don't want to have dairy products, that's okay. There are other plant sources where you could get calcium: collard greens, kale, bok choy, beans, almonds, broccoli. So you don't have to just drink milk to get your calcium. If you like your fruits and vegetables, you could get it through that. Next slide. So protein. Protein is not just found in meat products, your fish, your poultry, but you could also get it in your beans, your nuts, your seeds. You want to choose lean meats. versus your fatty meat. So your white meat chicken is less fat than your dark meat chicken. And also some of those products have omega-3s, which are good for us, our vitamin E, our folate, and beans could count as a meat substitute. So if you do want to become more of a vegetarian, choosing your bean products, you could even make beans, which are cheaper to buy it in the bag versus a can. When you buy the canned stuff, it has a lot more salt and sodium in it. So buying the bagged one, yes, it takes a little bit more time, but you could buy a pressure cooker and cook your beans in 20, 30 minutes, but then you're in more control of the salt intake of your beans. They're also good sources of your B vitamins, your potassium, your fiber, which is also great if you are having constipation. Next slide. So here's a chart which I love because it compares your lean meat products. So if you start at the top, your ground beef has the most calories and the most fat. And as you go down the list, it gets less and less. And this is all based on a 3.5-ounce serving. A serving size for meat is about a deck of cards or the palm of your hand. It doesn't count your fingers. It's just the palm. And that is what a serving size is of lean meat. So we want to choose most of the ones on the bottom of the list versus the top. But if you choose the ones on the top once in a while, it's not the worst thing in the world. Next slide. So here you're comparing two types of beef. You're comparing a T-bone steak versus a round steak. And you could see the same 3-ounce portion, you have a 100-calorie difference and 3 times the amount, 4 times the amount of fat difference. So you really want to choose a leaner meat product versus a fatty meat product. Next slide. So also if you want to limit your red meat, but you also want to limit your processed meat, your turkey, your ham, your bologna. They're all high in sodium. Even if you do buy a low sodium version, it's still high in salt. Also, we want to limit our red meat consumption to 18 ounces per week. Not a day, not a month, a week. Or if we want to do less, you can. But the goal is about 11 ounces a week. I mean, just think when you go to the restaurants how big the serving sizes are for beef. And also, you want to be careful when you're grilling. You don't want to have the charred pieces because they're associated with developing cancer. Next slide. You want to avoid your trans fats, your saturated fats, and usually these are found in your processed foods or your things that are staying on the shelf for long periods of time. To get your better fats, it's better to choose your nuts, your seeds, your fatty fishes, your eggs, your avocados are great. I know I have a lot of people tell me they don't want to eat avocados because they're high fat and high calories, but at least it's the good fat that you're eating. And avoid those trans fats. When you're reading the food label, anytime you see partially hydrogenated, there's a trans fat in it. So you really want to be careful with that. Next slide. And alcohol. We really want to limit our alcohol consumption. A serving does not mean a bottle of liquor, a bottle of wine, a case of beer. Liquor is 1.5 ounces, wine is 5 ounces, and a 12-ounce beer is all considered a serving. The intake that's suggested is 1 drink for women and 2 drinks for men. But if you don't drink, please don't start. But it does have increased risk of cancer. Next slide. And be active. You want a minimum of 150 minutes of moderate exercise per week. If you don't go to a gym, that's okay. Do things around the house. Walk around. Take a bicycle ride. Do laundry. That all counts as activity where you're bending and doing things. And it also is linked to the lower risk of all different cancers. So exercising is important. Even getting DVDs and doing things in your house is important. Just move. If you're watching TV during commercials, start doing sit-ups during the commercials, jumping jacks, anything. Just move during the day. Next slide. And this is what our healthy plate should look like. We want half of our plate fruits and vegetables, a quarter of our plate whole grains, and a quarter of our plate our protein. And I like this one because it shows about having healthy oils, the olive oil, and drinking water, which is all important for us. Next slide. So I thought this was cute. This compares the two plates. Usually this is the American plate on the left side, and this is how we should be eating, with the pizza and the fries and the burgers. Really unhealthy. So choosemyplate.gov is a great website to go to get ideas of what our plate should look like. Next slide. So if anyone has any questions, let me know, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Stacy. We have time for a question that just came in. With all of the great and important information that you provided for us today, what are the 2 to 3 most important takeaways from your lecture?
I really think drinking water is number one, just from a lot of patients that I hear who don't drink water. So we want at least 8-ounce glasses of water a day. I think exercise is important too, just moving. So we feel better about ourselves through everything. And eating more fruits and vegetables. Those are my 3 most important things.
Okay, great. And one last question. Is a daily vitamin advised?
It depends on your situation. I would really discuss it with your doctor before you do anything, because we do have some issues with antioxidants and vitamins. Also, our vitamins aren't regulated by anybody, so we don't know what's really in the vitamins. So we really want to discuss it first with our doctor before we take any vitamins. Okay,
great. Well, thank you so much, and thank you to all of our listeners today. A special thank you to Debbie's Dream Foundation, Curing Stomach Cancer, Debbie Zellman, the president and founder, our speaker, Stacy Roberts, and to Genentech for providing funding that helped make this webinar possible. As you see on your screen, we have upcoming events to get involved in and support. Details about these events are available on the Debbie's Dream website at www.debbiesdream.org. Our next nutrition webinar will be held on February 4th at 12 noon Eastern Time. We would love to hear your feedback, questions, and thoughts before then. Please send your comments to patient.resource@debbiesdream.org. For all who joined us for the nutrition webinar, you are welcome to stay on for the clinical trials webinar.